Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm Haider Mehdi, and this is a very special session of our readings from the Noble Quran, the Ascendant Quran, translated by Imam al Asi. This is an advanced English translation, and I welcome Imam al Asi to our session. Imam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome, sir. Imam, can you hear me? Imam, I
Walaikum
can't.
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Imam. This is thank
go
you,
ahead.
thank you, Imam. How often is it that one has the great privilege and honor, and it's a deeply humbling experience as well, to have a translator, a mufassir, a leading eminent authority on the Quran who has translated the Quran into English, and that is Imam Muhammad al Asi. Mashallah, mashallah, greatly privileged. And I know we don't have much time, so I'm going to go straight into our conversation, Imam. Imam, there are so many English translations currently, perhaps several dozen. Why did you feel the need for a new English translation of the Noble Quran?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khayri khalqihi wa al-Mustafa min rusulih wa ala alihi wa ma'iyyatih. To answer that question, obviously has to do with my experience in reading the other translations of the Quran. Obviously, there are some translations that are more popular than other translations. And so my attention or my reading was of those very popular translations. And I realized, because, you put me in a difficult position because I'm going to speak about myself. I just don't like to do that, but
Please do.
Your question requires it. I studied the Arabic language at the university, specializing in Arabic literature, and that was the major. And the minor, of course, what comes with that is Islamic studies. So, and I was born in the United States, so my English was pretty good, to say the least. And my Arabic also, because I went to school in Lebanon, and I went there to elementary school, to high school, and then to the university. And the English literature, or the English language curriculum in Lebanon, is the same as it is in the United States and in other English-speaking countries. So I grew up with a symbiotic relationship in these two languages. I was on par in both of them. And so, that being said, and I do have a type of Islamic background because I belonged to some Islamic activities way back in the 70s and late 60s and 70s. So when I began reading the English translations that are more or less well known by the average Muslim, I realized that, and I'm in no way here trying to devalue the honorable efforts that were put in by those translators. I'm sure in their own capacity, in their own time, with their own resources, they tried their best to lift the meanings from the Arabic language into the English language. But even with that, they fell short. There are many words in the Quran that have been mistranslated. They don't carry the accurate meaning that is intended by reading the Quran. And here I am forced to say that the Quranic Arabic words are almost, you may say, eternal words, which means they embedded in them are the experiences and the developments of mankind. So if one word is used 1,000 years ago to refer to a meaning which had its own definition 1,000 years ago, that same word can refer to that definition as that definition has developed throughout those years. So these translators, to the best of my knowledge, the ones that I was reading were not as steeped in the Arabic language as to capture this type of essence pertaining to the word itself. I can give examples here.
Please.
Yeah, you can understand it better with examples. There's an ayah in the Quran. There are other ayat that have the word khayl in it.
Khayl.
Khayl. Khayalam.
Hmm.
One of the ayat is وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُم مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. So what is this sentence of the ayah saying? It is saying, and prepare or muster against them, meaning the enemies. This is a command or an instruction towards those who are involved in warfare. So the ayah is saying, prepare or muster or husband against them, meaning the enemies, mastatatum, whatever is in your capacity of. Now here we come to the word ribat al khayl. And you can look at the translations that you read and all of this. When they come to the word al khayl, they translate that as horses or any other word that means horses, stallions or whatever.
Steeds.
Now,
Yes.
yeah, so it's true. That's what it meant when the Quran was revealed, because that was the foremost attack instrument
Engine of war.
in
Yes.
war. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But al-khayl, the word, it's because there are many other words that in the Arabic language that refer to horses. Many words. The same, there are many words that refer to camels. It's because of the nature of the Arabian Peninsula, etc. So, but one specific word was chosen, and that is al-khayl, to refer to this type of instrument that is used in warfare. And the word al-khayl is because the Arabic language has, it's unique in the sense that it has a source word out of which you can extract literally scores or even hundreds of words. Out of one word, you can do that.
MashaAllah.
So the word al-khayl is extracted from the word khuyala. And the word khuyala means pride and glory. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word al-khayl to designate in warfare whatever causes those who are involved in warfare that rush, that psychological rush of pride and glory. And
Wow,
in
wow.
those times, it was the horse. But
Mm,
because the word is inclusive of all times and of all developments,
mm.
no longer is the horse in our time. It doesn't give you that adrenaline rush of glory and pride. So,
Wow.
what does that in our time? What becomes the khayl of
Mm.
our time?
Our time.
It becomes jet fighters.
Mm.
It becomes
Atomic weapons.
well,
I know it's a controversial one, but you're right. Jet fighters, tanks, yes.
yeah, yeah, and this is in our time. 1,000 years from now, we don't know what that same word will capture.
Wah, wah, wah,
You
wah,
see,
wah.
so
Subhanallah.
that's an example of why I mean, I can give other examples, but let's take the word. There's a surah in the Quran. It's called Surah Ash-Shu'ara,
Okay.
and the word Ash-Shu'ara is the plural of the word Sha'ir, and the word Sha'ir simply means poet.
Ah.
So uh, in that now it means poet in that time because the poets were the ones who could dramatize and sensationalize their uh, expressions.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, in that time there was no cinema, there were no movies, there were no films, there were no TVs, there were nothing like that.
No social media.
Uh, So if we stay with the word shu'ara, then what we are doing is we are retarding, or we are moving back our thinking to those times and say, well, shu'ara is only applies to poets. Of course,
Hmm.
it's inclusive of them, but
Hmm.
in our time, shu'ara simply means sensationalists, those
Hmm.
who are involved in sensationalizing information, just like poets do. And when you look in today's world, that applies to filmmakers, it applies to the cinema industry, it applies to movie productions, all of this. So to stick with the old meaning of the word means we have not developed our mind to understand the inclusiveness of the Quran that applies to our time.
Oh, 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 oh. So, Imam, is a quick question here before you go for. How were you able to develop this particular insight? Um, was this as a consequence the fact that your mother tongue was Arabic? Well, in a sense, it was also English because you're Arabic by descent, by family, but you grew up and were educated in the early days in the US. But there are many others like you who have not been able to address this issue in this form and fashion that we are hearing you do it. So, what was different?
Well, I would first of all, it's a good area that you're approaching, because when I'm asked, "What's your mother tongue? Is it Arabic or English?" And I honestly, I can't answer that question because I don't know.
Yes, exactly. I can understand.
So, uh, yeah, what in my particular case, the Arabic language was a concern of mine growing up, uh, because I don't know, some people, they have a tendency or they have a talent for certain things, and it just happened for me that what's important in all of this is to have a thinking mind. So if you have a thinking mind and you're growing up and you're reading and you're endeavoring to understand, then you begin to ask yourself very, what I consider to be very fundamental questions. with growing up in because being born in the United States, I used to go to elementary school and I used to sing Christmas carols, and participate in all of the activities that take place in like a Christian society. So when we moved, the family, myself and my family, when we moved to Lebanon, then it was. I remember this one encounter I had with my grandfather, and it was. I must have been about 13 years old, 12 or 13, and I was saying something to the effect that Jesus is Lord, or something like that. And he said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I never gave it a thought. The expression just came out of me. I didn't think Jesus was God or anything, but it was just an expression that jumped out. He said, he said, "But no, Jesus was just a prophet." you know, and that triggered deeper thoughts in me. He said, "Well, wait a minute here. Some people say Jesus is Lord. I don't even know exactly what is meant by that." And my grandfather is saying Jesus is a prophet and a messenger. And so let's, begin to think about this, and let's begin to read about it. And that's one of the instances that forced me to go into deeper thoughts about words and their meanings. And then as I grew up and went to high school, it took the curriculum that is required there. And then from there on, after graduating from high school, I was determined to study the Arabic language. And therefore, I became a student at Beirut Arab University, which is an offshoot of Alexandria University in Egypt. And alhamdulillah, there were scholars there in the Arabic language that were famous. They were very, Allah calculates these things. We have nothing to do with this. These are all Allah's, provisions and calculations that we go through throughout our life. And so, alhamdulillah, we had these very well-grounded professors in the Arabic language, and I was imbibing all of the information that I could get from them during those years at Beirut Arab University, Arabic language. And of course, when you study Arabic language, they make it mandatory. You have to pick one Occidental language and one Oriental language. And obviously, knowing the English language, you pick English. Now, when it came to Occidental language, you might be interested, or your viewers may be interested to know this, because subhanallah, I have a brother who is 1 year younger than me, and we were going through school together in the same classrooms with this. Everything was the same. So when we got to the university level, we also signed up for Arabic literature. But when it came to choosing the Oriental language, at that time, I was reading some of the translation of Allama Muhammad Iqbal. Some of his books were translated into Arabic. I'm talking about the early 70s.
Okay.
And so I was interested, because of Muhammad Iqbal, to learn Persian. And Persian was one of the languages that you could choose. So I said to my brother, "Okay, let's choose Persian." He said, "No." I said, "Well, what?" And he doesn't, he usually doesn't take issue with me, but on this particular choice, he took a hard line in saying, "No, we're not going to learn. I'm not going to take Persian," and we wanted to stay together. So I said, "So what Oriental language?" Because the other choice was Hebrew. They said, "No, let's take Hebrew."
Okay.
So we got into a little, argument there. Then I said, "Well, we're brothers, and let's not." I said, "Okay, let's take Hebrew." So that was one of the in my lifetime, one of the lost opportunities, because later on in life, well, no one knows what the future has, but
Right.
had I studied Persian, had I taken that those courses in Persian, it would have been a little different. But anyways, alhamdulillah, that's the way it went. So anyways, without going out on this tangent, um, in studying in depth the Arabic language in depth, you have to study, pre-Islamic Arabic. Then you have to study pre-Islamic. I mean, the history, the poetry, and the poetry plays a big role in the Arabic language. Let me just make a comment here for people, because sometimes when someone speaks about a language, uh, some listeners will get the notion that there's some type of nationalism involved in this.
Hmm.
And there's nothing of that sort. Actually, uh, one of the incidents that happened while I was at the university there in Beirut, we were sort of a small Islamic group of students from the AUB, the American University of Beirut, Beirut Arab University, and Lebanese University. And there was only about 5 or 10 of us who were involved in what we may call Islamic activities.
Okay.
So it fell upon me to go to one of the high schools uh, to, and it was a prestigious high school. It was a private school. It's called Al Maqasid, and they have different branches in Beirut. So I went to one of these branches that is located in the Christian section of Beirut and asked them permission to speak to the students after Salat al-Dhuhr.
Okay.
The school had a masjid in it, and the students would come to pray Salat al-Dhuhr. So they gave me permission initially. And then I began speaking to the students there the first week, the second week, the third. After about a couple of months, I was called to the principal's office. And because initially the students who were attending my presentation were like 5 or 10, but after a couple of months, they were about 100. And this became concern to the administration, everyone. So we go to the principal's office, and the principal asks, I've been getting some feedback from the parents of some of these students, and I'd like to ask you, where are you from? And well, I'm from Lebanon. He said, no, you can't be from Lebanon. I said, why? What are you talking about? He said, well, I have to explain something here. I skipped something. When I was in Lebanon in those years, I would not speak colloquial. I would only speak the Fusha, the classical Arabic.
Okay.
So, and Lebanese don't do that. They just speak their colloquial,
Yes.
slang. And so when I'm speaking to him, he was convinced that I'm not Lebanese because I'm not speaking like a Lebanese.
Hmm.
So he said, you must be from Algeria or North Africa somewhere. Because Algerians, they had to relearn their Arabic language after French colonialism deprived them of their language and became French speakers. A couple of generations only spoke French. So after independence in 1962, they began learning Arabic, and they were learning the classical Arabic.
Classical Arabic, right.
Yeah. So this principal said, okay, let's get to the bottom of it. The bottom of it is I've been receiving information from parents that you are influencing their children in the wrong way. I said, what am I doing? I'm just explaining Islamic things. Please tell me what's the wrong. He said, well, you're explaining things in a manner that will, according to the parents, he's presenting himself as being neutral. but the parents are believing you're making Islamic types out of them. And they
Uh,
don't want that. They don't want that because at that time you have to understand the atmospherics of the climate, the social, the political climate. That was the heyday of Arab nationalism and Arab
mm,
socialism. And
mm,
so I'm going back to the point that when I'm speaking about the Arabic language, I'm free of this Arab nationalism because what happened was the principal put me on notice that if you don't stop doing what you are doing, you yourself are going to be threatened. And,
ah,
and he was right. Uh, After that, the week or two after that, there were some thugs that came to the high school as I was leaving, and they had their bats. They had iron rods with them, and they were threatening me. They said,
mm,
"This time we are putting you on notice. Next time you will not survive, so you better not come back here."
mm. And these students you were speaking to were Muslim students,
All of them were Muslim students.
or but studying in a Christian school or studying
Yes,
in the Christian
the
part of Beirut.
yes, yeah. The school itself was located in a part of Beirut called Al Ashrafiyya, and Al Ashrafiyya is a neighborhood in Beirut that is predominantly Christian.
Okay, so that explains why you've addressed the translation in the manner that you've actually gone to the root, and from the root you've extrapolated how this word would stand today, and like you said, 1,000 years from now, that would manifest in meaning differently.
Exactly.
Perfect. So, if, yes, Imam, please continue. Sorry.
No, so I just want to make it clear because I can foresee that I'm going to be speaking about the Arabic language at a great extent. So I don't want the viewers or the listeners to get the impression that I'm trying to promote some type of nationalism or some type of ethnicism or
Not at
some
all.
type of communal solidarity of whatever nature. And I
Not
have
at
nothing
all.
to do with
Not
that.
at all.
I would
Not at
I am myself have have become the enemy of nationalists.
Yes, yes,
So
yeah.
please, don't
No, no, no.
don't
I
think.
think it's very clear. I mean, and I'm glad you went into so much detail, Imam, because it was important uh, to understand why the need for this new translation and why the need for the giving the context to certain specific words and phrases which would have meant differently 1,500 years ago, mean differently today, and would mean differently, 1,500 years from now. So,
Exactly.
so that's wonderful. So, in that context, I think the next question is, and I know we're running out of time, man. This I thought we'd just been 2 minutes, and it's already 20. Um, is are your use of the phrase social being or social humans for insan? So why was that?
Very good question. and this and this takes us to the word insan, as I mentioned earlier, is extracted from a root word.
Hmm.
And there's two linguistic schools of thought, just like we have Islamic fiqhi schools of thought. We have initially two Arabic linguistic schools of thought. One of them is called the School of Thought of Al Kufa, and the other one is called the School of Thought of Al Basra. And one of them considers the noun to be the source word, the other one considers the past tense to be the source word. I happen to agree with the one that says that the past tense is the source of the word.
Okay.
So when we come to the word insan,
Hmm.
some linguistic scholars, they source the word insan in the past tense alif nun sin, anisa. and that means to become acquainted with.
Ah.
So an insan is a person who becomes acquainted with. And becoming acquainted with things involves recognizing, identifying, learning, acquiring knowledge. But it all begins with familiarity, becoming acquainted with something.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's an insan. The other ijtihad in this pertaining to this word, the word insan is extracted from the root word nun sin ya, nasiya, forgot. So the insan is a person who forgets.
Oh, Allahu Akbar.
So, and there's no contradiction. If we combine the two,
Yeah.
Anisa with Nasiya, we have a human who becomes acquainted and familiar with things, and then he begins to forget and
Wow.
lose that characteristic. And that
Wow.
describes our life. So these are many words just to identify or to define one word, but uh, to wrap it up or to package it, we say social being.
Ah,
That is how the best way I could capture these two root definitions of that word. But if
okay.
we use, if the word, like most of the times the translators use the word man or use the word human or
Yeah.
human beings.
Human being.
Most of the times those are the words that are being
Yes.
used. But those have connotations to them in the English language. Especially in our age and time right now, the word man, because of the gender issue, you have,
Yes.
oh, how about woman? I
How
mean,
about woman? Yes. Yes.
it puts you in that
Ah,
conflicting mindset. So
absolutely.
we have
Yeah.
to avoid that. And then if we use the word human or human being, that is it takes you, at least people who are more or less enlightened in this area or informed in this area, it sort of takes you into the Darwinian world, where
Yes. Yes.
humans are, they began
Yes.
as amoeba.
Evolutionary process.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so we want to avoid all of that also. So the best thing
Yeah.
is social being.
Social being.
Yeah.
Ah.
Of
So
course,
it.
this in the social sciences, this also could be um, skewed into the socialist thoughts,
Yes. Yes. Also.
socialism, and that
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yes.
We don't
But
mean that, but I just want to capture those two original root words. That's all.
mm, wow, wow, subhanallah. So we're kind of running out of time. I've got about 6, 7 minutes left. A quick one. Uh, the phrase salah, namaz, as with in Persian, prayer, and then you use the phrase commune, and so when the word salah is used in the Quran, does it actually mean the actual act of standing in prayer and ruku and sajda, or is it something much broader?
Well, the word salah itself, once again, you have to visit the root, because also we have to mention here, I failed to do this because there's so many things to say, but the root the Islamic words, the Arabic Quranic Islamic words had their origins in pre uh, Islamic times.
Mhm.
And I have to mention here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his infinite wisdom that the Quran was revealed in Arabic. You know, in the world, in the ancient world, there were civilizations. You had the Persian civilization, you had the Chinese civilization, you had the Indian civilization, you had the Greek civilization, Egyptian civilization, Roman civilization, all of these civilizations all around the place. And here you look in the midst of all of that, we're looking at the Arabian Peninsula, the pre Quranic Arabian Peninsula. There was no civilization there. Uh, if there were civilizations, they were destroyed, but there was no civilization. So the question becomes, now, there were probably hundreds of thousands of Arabic speakers in the Arabian Peninsula, if not a million or two. What were they doing? I mean, all of these people were working on building civilizations and modernities. What were these people in Mecca, in Hadramaut, in Yemen, Al Hijaz, Al Bahrain, Al Yamama? What were they doing? Where did their civilizational capacity, where did it go? It
Hmm.
went into their language.
Ah.
They invested their intellectual capacity in their language.
Language. Wow.
And so saying that, clarifying this, when we take a look at the word salah, it comes from the original past tense salah, and the word salah, which salah, me to to make a leap here means to connect.
To connect. Okay.
And the word salah in the Quran is used by itself, it's used as a verb, and it's used in conjunction with other words. And in all of these places in the Quran, it has its peculiar meaning that in the end connects with or relates to the word connecting. So a salah could mean, in some ayat in the Quran, it could simply mean a dua.
Okay.
And a dua is, asking Allah, beseeching Allah, um, uh, supplicating to Allah. That's one of the meanings in some of the ayat in the Quran. In other ayat in the Quran where the word salla is used, it means, the original meaning of the word pre-Quranic times is connecting, but because the linguistic pre-Quranic word gained a Shar'i post-Quranic meaning. So the Shar'i meaning of Salah is what we understand when we do our prayers, when we
Stand up and qiyam and yes.
these technicalities that we go through, that the Prophet taught us, that we all agreed upon as being ruku' and sujood, and the recitation of the Fatiha, etc. This is, and I've covered, I dug into the English language to see which word can, in this instance, can relate the meaning. And in Catholic theology, they use the word commune.
Yes,
And
communion and commune. Yes.
that's right. And so that would, in my humble estimation, come the closest, because there's no word. I couldn't find any English word that will satisfactorily translate the whole meaning from Arabic into English. Whoever tells you they've done something like that, they just don't understand the
Yeah.
difference between one language and the next.
Hmm.
So let me
Yes.
take the issue of social justice in the organic sense
Yes.
of it. There are two words in the Quran. There's the word adil and the word qist.
Okay.
These are the nouns, and then you have the verbs of these two words. So those are the two words that get confused by translators. Most of them, they translate those two words with the same one English word, which is justice.
Okay.
And that is incorrect. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He meant justice, He would have used one word, adil, and why use the word qist? So
Hmm.
there has to be a differentiation in meaning between adil and qist. So what's the difference? So this is where you'd have to look at the verses of the Quran that have the word adil in them and the verses of the Quran that have the word qist in them.
Okay.
And when you take a look at these two categories of ayat, you will find, as I found, that the word adil means, simply stated, means justice. It means uh, individual justice, it means organic justice, and it means general justice. That's what the word adil means. It's a responsibility of every person in the world to do justice as a father, as a son, as a neighbor, as a whatever capacity the person is in, he is required to do justice. So that's the word justice. The word qist is a development of the word justice. It becomes institutionalized justice. It
Ah,
becomes governmental justice.
got it.
It
Got
becomes collective justice. It's no longer the elementary justice,
it. Hmm.
it's a more complex justice that is meant by the word qist. So you can choose any ayat in the Quran you want and look at the word adil and then look at the word qist. And then you will, I can give an example here, but the example is probably going to take about 10 or 15 minutes to explain, and maybe we can do that in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Imam Muhammad al Asi. It was perhaps one of the most enlightening engagements, encounters I've had in my life. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your blessed work. We hope that people who have listened to you and will be inspired to pick up a copy of the Ascendant Quran and go through it themselves. I hope we have the opportunity to engage with you, connect with you, commune with you, seek your blessings, seek your insights, seek your explanations of the noble Quran, and especially through your translation, the Ascendant Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, Imam Muhammad al Asi, bless you and all your loved ones. May you have a safe journey back home. And inshallah ta'ala, we will meet again. If you can end with a short prayer, Imam al Asi, then we will close our session today.
Certainly. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ولا تجعله ملتبسا علينا واجعلنا للمتقين إماما وقل رب زدني علما وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم